6-year-old Jediah Armstrong will be moved from Dallas to Georgia to live with their grandmother. This all comes after the unexpected and sudden loss of both of their parents.
I had absolutely no idea.
A tragedy took place at this home in Temple.
I found out all of the specifics of the incident after the fact.
According to Temple police, on Saturday morning, Britton Armstrong shot and killed his wife, Jasmine Goldring Armstrong, on Broken Shoe Trail. Temple police says he then took off, crashed his car, and eventually died by a self-inflicted gunshot wound near Lorena on northbound I-35.
I knew both the mother and the father. I was friends with both of them, and it was just absolutely heartbreaking.
Welcome to True Crime Her Story. Thanks for being with us. Stay tuned for the full story behind the headlines, a story that matters. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video to help keep her memory alive. Saturday, March 23rd, 2024. Temple, Texas. The neighborhood was still quiet just after sunrise. Most families were starting their weekend. But inside one home on Broken Shoe Trail, the day was already in motion. By 7:50 a.m., she had her car keys in hand, a packed overnight bag resting by the door. Hours of quiet planning had led to this moment, a moment that was supposed to mark the start of a new chapter for her and her two children. But minutes later, everything changed. In the days that followed, whispers began spreading that 36-year-old Jasmine Armstrong had uncovered something deeply personal about her husband, Britton Armstrong. A secret, some said, he would never allow to be known. What is confirmed is this. Less than an hour later, two children no longer had a mother or a father. This is the story of Jasmine's final morning, the choices she made, the steps she took, and the unanswered questions that still hang over a community searching for meaning in a tragedy that unfolded in less than 10 minutes. Before we go any further, if you believe stories like Jasmine's need to be heard, take a moment right now to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it so more people can understand the reality of what so many face behind closed doors. And in the comments, tell us where you're watching from, because every share, every voice helps keep these stories alive and can make a difference for someone who needs to hear them today. Jasmine Yvonne Goldring Armstrong was born on December 31st, 1987, in Barstow, California. She was the eldest child of Julius Timmy Goldring and Taisha Goldring, the one her younger siblings naturally looked to for guidance. From the beginning, she carried herself with a quiet strength, the kind that came from knowing who she was and where she came from. Her parents, though they hadn't had the chance to pursue higher education themselves, instilled in her a deep respect for learning, and she took that lesson further than anyone in her family had before. She became the first to attend college, the first to earn a degree, and then kept going. Jasmine earned her bachelor's degree in Information Systems Management from the University of Maryland Global Campus. Later, she pursued her MBA at Prairie View A&M University, balancing her studies with work, relationships, and eventually motherhood. Education for her was never just a personal goal. It was a way to break barriers, to open doors for others, especially young Black women navigating academic spaces that weren't always built to welcome them. She wasn't content to keep her accomplishments to herself. She gave back through mentorship programs, reading initiatives for underserved youth, and parent education workshops. Through her leadership in Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, she poured her energy into service projects, from organizing senior care outreach to supporting military families and hosting empowerment events for women. Her sorors described her as dependable, warm, and a woman who could light up a room with her presence. But beyond the degrees, beyond the titles, Jasmine's most important role was at home. She was a mother to Belle, 9 years old, and Jediah, 6. Her children were the center of her life, the reason she worked so hard, and the reason she pushed forward even when life was heavy. She was the kind of mother who showed up for school events, for bedtime routines, for the little moments that mattered most. Friends and family talk about how she made people feel seen, how she had a way of making others believe they mattered. Whether she was leading a meeting, encouraging a student, or comforting her children, Jasmine carried herself with the same grace and determination. She was building something, a future for herself and her children, and she was determined to make that future as bright as possible. Alexander Armstrong was a Texas native originally from San Antonio. He attended Harker Heights High School and later pursued further studies, including network engineering at the Cybertex Institute of Technology. He also spent time at Temple College, building what appeared to be a respectable academic record. Outside of school, his interests were straightforward: painting, video games, and football, with a particular loyalty to the Dallas Cowboys. To those who knew him in passing, Britton was laid back and private, the kind of person who kept a small circle. When Jasmine met him, there was an instant connection. On the surface, they seemed to share a similar drive for building a stable life. Their relationship grew, and by 2017, they were married. Friends and family celebrated the union, seeing it as the start of a promising future. In the years that followed, the couple welcomed 2 children, Belle and Jediah. Publicly, they presented an image of stability, attending events together, appearing in family photos, smiling in moments shared online. From the outside, it looked like they were building a home rooted in love, with Jasmine pursuing her academic and community work, and Britton seen as the supportive partner by her side. As the years went by, those closest to Jasmine began to notice shifts that were hard to ignore. She had always been the one who showed up, who brought energy into every space she entered, but that began to change. Invitations that she would have accepted without hesitation were turned down. Social gatherings where her presence was expected would pass without her. Friends remember her explaining that she couldn't be away for too long or that she needed to get back home. Her once vibrant online presence, where she shared her academic milestones, her community projects, and her pride as a mother, became noticeably quieter. Even the way she dressed changed. In the Texas heat, when lighter clothing was the norm, she was sometimes seen in more covered, conservative outfits. These changes on their own might have seemed minor, but together they painted a different picture to those who had known her for years. Experts in the field of domestic violence describe this kind of gradual shift as a common indicator of coercive control, a pattern where one partner slowly limits the other's independence, isolates them from friends and family, and influences how they present themselves to the outside world. It doesn't always come with physical harm. Sometimes it's about monitoring where you go, questioning who you talk to, controlling access to money, or undermining your confidence until you second-guess your own decisions. In many cases, the person experiencing it works hard to keep up appearances, to make it seem like everything is fine, even when the reality inside the home is very different. Those around Jasmine saw the changes, but without knowing exactly what was happening, it was impossible to see the full picture. What they did know was that she wasn't the same open, expressive woman she had always been. Something was weighing on her, and in time, that weight would become impossible to hide. By March of 2024, Jasmine's actions made it clear to those closest to her that she was preparing for a significant change. At her children's school, she updated custody authorizations, making adjustments that would limit Britton's access. This wasn't the kind of task someone handled on impulse. It required intention, planning, and a willingness to put the needs of her children first, even if it meant facing confrontation. She had also reached out to legal counsel, taking steps to understand her rights and prepare for what would come next. Friends would later recall how these moves were part of a quiet but deliberate strategy, one she didn't broadcast but was steadily putting into place. Inside her home, she began packing belongings, not the frantic kind of packing that comes from panic, but the careful separation of items she intended to take with her when the moment came. She was creating the conditions for a departure she had clearly been thinking about for some time. In those final days, she stayed in close contact with her family, speaking with them about arrangements for Belle and Jediah and confirming her plans. On Friday, March 22nd, she made calls that let them know she was ready. To her loved ones, this was a woman who had made a decision. She was organized, she was calm, and she was focused on the next chapter. What no one could know was how little time was left before those plans would be cut short. In the days following Jasmine's death, the community was left searching for answers. Alongside grief came speculation, and soon the internet filled with claims about what might have pushed the situation to its breaking point. Among those claims was one repeated across online forums and social media, that Jasmine had discovered something deeply personal about Britton's private life, possibly linked to his sexuality, and that this discovery had intensified the tension between them. But despite how widely this rumor spread, there has never been official confirmation. No police statement, no court filing, and no verified family account have supported these claims. They remain unproven. What is certain, supported by documented actions and the words of those closest to her, is that Jasmine was making arrangements to leave. She had updated custody documents, consulted legal counsel, and packed her belongings. On the morning of March 23, 2024, she was in the process of carrying out those plans. That is where the facts end and where the unanswered questions begin. Saturday, March 23, 2024. The sun was barely over the horizon in Temple, Texas, when Jasmine began her morning. At 6:30 a.m., she picked up the phone and called her mother. It was a short conversation, but it carried weight. She confirmed her plans for Belle and Jaya to stay over, a step that aligned with the arrangements she had been making all week. Her voice, according to those who later heard about that call, was calm and steady. She was focused. She was ready. By 7:45 a.m., a neighbor's security camera recorded a silver sedan pulling into the driveway. Britton had been away overnight. Now, he was back. 10 minutes later, at 7:55 a.m., the stillness of the street was shattered. Neighbors later told police they heard raised voices coming from inside the home, followed by a single gunshot. The sound was sharp, unmistakable. When officers arrived at the 1900 block of Broken Shoe Trail, they found the front door closed, but the scene inside was devastating. Jasmine, 36 years old, lay near the entryway with her car keys still in her hand. Just feet away sat a packed overnight bag. The same bag she had prepared to carry into the next phase of her life. Upstairs, Belle and Jediah were found together. They were unharmed physically, but they had just lost the one person who had been their constant. Investigators would later determine that Jasmine had been moments away from leaving when she was confronted, and in the space of those moments, her plans, her future, and her life were taken. Moments after the gunshot, Britton Armstrong left the house and got into the same silver sedan seen arriving minutes earlier. He pulled away from Broken Shoe Trail, heading south. Officers responding to the scene quickly connected the description of the vehicle to Britton, and an alert was broadcast to surrounding agencies. Before long, a Belton police unit spotted the car traveling along Interstate 35. When officers attempted to initiate a stop, Britton did not slow down. Instead, the chase accelerated, the sedan weaving through traffic at high speed. Dashcam footage from that morning shows the car moving erratically, pushing past 90 miles per hour, each mile putting more distance between him and the home he had just left in chaos. The pursuit continued until mile marker 324. There, Britton lost control of the vehicle while attempting to exit the highway, striking a guardrail. As officers approached, a single gunshot rang out from inside the car. When they reached the driver's side, Britton was slumped in the seat, a handgun on the floor beside him. That weapon was later confirmed by forensic testing to be the same firearm used to kill Jasmine less than an hour earlier. In the space of one morning, 2 lives were gone, and 2 children were left without either parent. In the hours after police cleared the scene on Broken Shoe Trail, the focus shifted to Belle and Jadiah. Their mother was gone, their father was gone, and the stability they had known had been torn apart in a single morning. Relatives moved quickly to be by their side. Jasmine's maternal family stepped in, ensuring the children would not be left in the hands of strangers during the most vulnerable moment of their young lives. Within days, a neighbor who had once hosted the Armstrong family for gatherings launched a fundraiser to help with their care. The GoFundMe gained momentum, fueled by community members, sorority sisters, colleagues, and even strangers moved by the story. It eventually raised more than $11,000. But money could not repair the depth of the loss. Belle, the eldest, had already been navigating life with autism and required specialized educational and emotional support. The trauma of that day only made those needs more urgent. Every plan for their future had to be rebuilt from the ground up, not just in practical terms, but in the way they would process what happened. Ultimately, the decision was made for the children to relocate to Georgia, where their grandmother could provide daily care, stability, and a familiar environment. It was a move meant to give them a chance to heal, surrounded by extended family who could carry forward the love their mother had poured into them. The shock of Jasmine's death rippled far beyond Temple, reaching friends, colleagues, and sorority sisters across the country. In the weeks that followed, messages of love and grief poured in. On April 16, 2024, family, friends, and members of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated gathered at the Willie A. Watkins Historic West End Chapel to honor her life. The chapel was filled with people wearing the sorority's colors, blue and white, a visual tribute to the sisterhood she had served with dedication. Sorors spoke about her leadership in community projects, her commitment to service, and the way she poured herself into every cause she championed. Professors and colleagues remembered her as a scholar with a sharp mind and a compassionate heart, someone who used her voice to advocate for others and to challenge inequities in education. Family members shared memories of her warmth, her resilience, and her ability to make everyone she met feel valued. In the weeks after the service, her loved ones worked to ensure her mission would continue. A scholarship fund was established in her name, dedicated to supporting first-generation Black women pursuing higher education, the very path Jasmine had walked and worked to clear for others. It became more than a memorial. It was a way to carry forward the work she believed in, to make sure her passion for education and empowerment would touch lives long after the service ended and the crowd went home. What happened to Jasmine is part of a pattern that experts and advocates have been sounding the alarm about for years. National data shows that in the United States, thousands of women are killed every year by a current or former intimate partner. And in a significant number of those cases, the perpetrator takes their own life immediately afterward. These are known as domestic violence murder-suicides, and the numbers reveal a grim truth. The period when a person is preparing to leave an abusive relationship is often the most dangerous time. Studies from the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence and other advocacy groups show that separation or the threat of separation can escalate the risk of lethal violence dramatically. This is why safety planning is critical, and why friends, family, and professionals must be alert to warning signs. Coercive control is one of those signs. It's a pattern of behavior meant to dominate and restrict another person's freedom. It can look like constant monitoring of where someone goes, limiting who they talk to, isolating them from loved ones, controlling finances, belittling their achievements, or creating an environment where every choice is questioned. It often starts subtly but can escalate over time, making it harder for the person to leave safely. In Jasmine's case, we know she was taking steps to protect herself and her children, but even with preparation, the danger came fast. Advocates stress that awareness of these behaviors and early intervention when they appear can be the difference between life and death. This isn't just about recognizing abuse when it's physical. It's about understanding that control, isolation, and intimidation can be just as threatening, and knowing that when someone decides to leave, they may need more protection than ever before. 2 children, 1 morning, a lifetime forever changed. Jasmine's story is not only a tragedy, it is a call to act. If someone you know is preparing to leave a dangerous relationship, stand beside them. Listen without judgment, offer your help, share their name, share their story. Because silence can cost a life. Her voice may be gone, but the message her life carries is urgent and alive. We cannot bring her back, but we can fight for those who still have a chance. Comment where you're watching from and who you're sharing this for. Because the more people who hear her story, the more lives we can save.